Hi everyone, in this video we're going to look at amortization tables. So something that seems a little bit scary but isn't really. So it's just looking at everything you've just done and putting it in table form. So it's kind of like what businesses might use to look at the ongoing balance. You do a similar thing when you look at your recurrence relations and you're doing all different iterations. Same information, maybe a little bit more detailed in an amortization table. So just shows you the ongoing balance. So here we've got reducing balance loan, and then we've got compound interest investment, but much the same. All right, so let's have a quick look at the key features of an amortization table, and then we'll look at some questions. All right, so payment number, you haven't made any payment numbers. Sorry, you haven't made any payment numbers. You haven't made any payments. So over here, this is going to be your initial value. And then obviously everything after that is your ongoing balance. All right, makes sense because it's under the balance column. All right, pretty straightforward. All right, then we go on to, all right, let's make a payment. That payment is $250. Okay, so you're making a repayment to this loan because remember when you get a loan, you have to repay that loan. You just don't get to keep the money. Otherwise, it's not a loan, it's a gift. All right, so a loan does imply that you have to make repayments. The interest is the interest calculated on the previous amount. So that $12.50. So these should all have dollars next to them because they're all in dollars. So that's the interest calculated on the previous balance. And then the difference between those two is the reduction. So when you've got a loan, the bank's not going to give you that money for free. It's going to charge you interest. So let's say these are years just to make it a little bit easier. So after 1 year, it's charged you $12.50 to borrow that $1,000 and you've made a repayment of $250. So basically you're reducing your principal by $237.50. So then your balance is at $762.50. And then you go through that process again. So you're making the same payment, but your interest rate, sorry, not your interest rate, your interest value has changed. It's now $9.53. And that's because you're calculating interest on a smaller amount. You're calculating it on $762.50 as opposed to the original $1,000. So your principal reduction is slightly more, and then you're left with your balance. So it keeps going, and you can see after 4 years, it's nearly will be at zero. So you'll have to go into another payment. All right, so just what I've highlighted here, pretty straightforward. The payment amount is underneath the payment column. The interest calculated in dollars is there. Then your principal reduction is just your payment minus your interest. So you're this is your money, the $250, but the bank is charging you interest. So that's why it's the difference that gets taken off your balance. And then in this last column is your ongoing balance. All right, so that's what an amortization table is. It's just showing you or breaking up everything into a table. All right, I tried to link everything here to the table. So your interest paid is just R over 100 times P times your previous balance. All right, where R is your annual interest rate. Sometimes you'll be told what that annual interest rate is. Sometimes you need to work it out. So if we know we're getting interest of $12.50 off $1,000, you can work out what the interest rate is. So we'll probably get a question where it's going to ask that. The principal reduction is just your payment minus your interest, and the new balance is the balance minus your principal reduction. All right, compound interest investments. So basically, if you're investing, this is how it's going up. So you might see something similar to this on a bank statement. I'm trying to think what they're called, although you guys probably never take any notice of bank statements anymore. But when I was a little kid, back in the good old days, I would get my bank statement probably quarterly, and I loved looking at my money growing. But these days, you can just go onto an app and have a look at any time that you like. But when I was a kid, it was always exciting to see how your money is growing. All right, so our initial investment was $1,200. So we're making additional payments of $50 each compounding period. We don't know what it is. Let's say it's yearly. And this is how much interest you're getting, which is hardly anything. Maybe it's not yearly if that's all the interest you're getting. But the main difference that we need to actually see is that your balance is going up this time because obviously it's an investment. So it's payment plus interest as opposed to the previous one was your payment. So for your principal reduction, it was payment minus interest, whereas your principal increase, slightly different, is your payment plus your interest because you're earning that interest. The bank, you've put money into that bank. So what it will do with that $1,200, it will invest it in other things with other people's money, and that's how the bank makes money. And you're basically loaning your money to the bank in a sense, and you're charging it interest. Not that, we use that kind of lingo, but you're earning interest. The bank is using your money to make money and thanking you for it by giving you interest in return. And then your previous balance, we're going to be adding this one because it's an investment. All right, not much else to amortization tables other than that, but it's probably a good idea to do a few questions because it might be fairly new and might be a bit scary, but not too difficult. And we need to know how to calculate everything. All right, so let's have a look at some questions. So first of all, reducing balance loans. So a student borrows $2,000 at an interest rate of $12,000 per annum, compounding monthly. Let's just highlight a few things. So it's borrowing, so it's a loan, $2,000, 12% per annum, compounding monthly. The student makes monthly payments of $345. So you can see that's why it's the same there. The amortization table for this loan after 5 payments is shown below. Calculate the monthly interest rate. So I was hoping that'd be a question like this. So we don't know what the monthly actually, they've given us this is easy. Sorry. They've given us the annual interest rate. So obviously the monthly interest rate would be easy to calculate because it's just going to be, so this 12 divided by 12. So 12 months in a year. So it's going to be 1%. If we didn't know that, there's our interest earned of $2,000. So on our calculator, we can just go to 20 divided by 2,000. All right, so that's 0.01, and as a percentage, it's 1%. Okay, so you can calculate it too if we weren't told that it was 12% per annum. Determine the values of A, B, and C. So the A, this one here, is our interest. So remember, we need to calculate 1% of the previous amount. Then this B is our principal reduction. So that's just our payment minus the interest. And then C is our balance minus the reduction. All right, so this is all here. If we just go back to, you're going to come up. All right, so this is all, the interest paid. We already calculated that it was going to be 1%, but if you didn't, that R has to be the annual interest rate. So let's do it that way just to be consistent with what we've got here. All right, so for A, we want the interest paid. Oh my gosh, I forgot already. Just had a blank. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so it's R over 100 times A. So R, our annual interest rate, 100 times compounding periods, which is also 12. And then we're going to multiply that by our previous value. So not 2,000, let's get rid of that, 1,675. All right, so we're just taking basically 1% of $1,675. All right, which is $1,675 if you did it on the calculator. All right, so that was A. Then B, our principal reduction. So again, on your notes, it's there. Your principal reduction is just your payment minus the interest. So your payment is 345 minus your interest. All right, and that's going to be 334.85. All right, again, you can do that on the calculator. All right, and the last one, C, would be your previous balance, which was $680.37. Take away the $338.20. And I don't have the brain capacity after doing quite a few videos, so let's just do it on here just in case I get it wrong. 38.2 342.17. All right, and put a dollar sign there. You don't have to put dollar signs, you'll still be marked as correct. So C is $342.17. So basically one more payment and the loan's going to be paid off. All right, now looking at annuities. So remember that an annuity is an investment. So you're putting that money into the bank and then you're getting money from the bank, but it's your money, and you're earning interest on it. So the main difference between the annuity and the reducing balance loan that we've got before, so we've still got our balance here. Now if we have a look at our, so this is the payment we are receiving. Sorry, where was I? I just had to answer the phone. Okay, so we're receiving $508 each month. Now, of that $508, $15 was like the bank's interest that it gave you, and $493 is being reduced from the balance. So from that $508, think of it as $15 is from the bank, and 493 is taken off your original balance. And so you get that interest as well. I'm trying to think of what would, I can't think off the top of my head. Too many videos in a row and it kind of makes me get tired. So $15, so you're earning interest from the bank. All right, you've put $6,000 for the benefit of, giving the bank some money. It said, all right, I'm going to pay you $15 in interest. So you get that $15 and then you'll get, because it's an annuity, you're getting $493. Now, if you're watching this video and you don't know what annuities are, then you need to look at my video on that or learn about it before you think, oh, why is this slightly different? All right, so if we're looking at, all right, let's answer the first question first, instead of jumping into A, B, and C. Reading from the table, determine the interest earned when payment 1 is received. So the interest earned, so we're just reading the table, so that's $15. And the monthly interest rate. So you've earned $15 of $6,000. So you can use your R value. Actually, can you? No. Sorry, you're calculating the interest. Oh, actually, sorry guys, we don't need to do that. I was going to use those values, but there it is. We've got 3%, so it's just 3 divided by 12. Which is 0.25. Sorry, again, I was thinking we were calculating it from the table. If you're calculating it from the table and it hadn't given it to you in the question, all right, just showing you all different scenarios. So 3 over 12. There we go, 0.25%. All right, calculate the values of A, B, and C. So we're going to use that 0.25% to calculate the interest. So we're going to be 0.25 of the previous amount, which was 5012.77. Oops. And I left it as a percentage. Sorry, I should divide it by 100. So the value of A is 12.53. All right, so write that down. The value of B is your principal reduction. So remember, that's your payment minus your interest. So we're going to do 508 minus the previous amount. So I'm just going to highlight that and drag it down. All right, so $495.47. Now notice how I didn't do any rounding. All right, because if I did this, and just be careful, that didn't make any difference here, but you do have to be careful with your rounding. So more decimal places with finance until you get to your final answer. All right, and then C is going to be our previous amount, so the 5012.77 minus that principal reduction. Right, and then you can round that to 2 decimal places. So $4,517.30. All right, so that's an amortization table for an annuity. And now we're going to have a look at some investment questions. So here we've got, for an investment, we've invested $5,000, and you can see the amounts going up each time. So we're making regular payments, so that money is going into the bank, into the investments. We've got our interest, and you can see that's going up because your balance is going up. All right, so that's why the amount of interest is going up, and then also your principal increase. So going back to, oops, just kept pressing on the wrong one. Compound interest investments. Just remember that your principal increase is your payment plus interest, and your new balance is your previous balance plus the principal increase. All right, so the monthly interest rate. Okay, so for this one, they haven't told us what the annual interest rate is. So here is one where we would have to actually work it out from the table. So we've got $50. All right, and that is a portion of our original, which is 5,000. So just 50 over 5,000. All right, so 0.01%. Now that's the monthly interest rate. If you had to calculate the annual interest rate, then you would just times that by 12 because it's per month. All right, oops. I did make a mistake. I need to multiply this by 100. All right, so it should be 1%. Sorry, guys, I should have picked up on that. 1%. And then, because I didn't multiply by 100, so I should have multiplied this by 100 to turn it into a percentage. And then you can see your annual interest rate is 12%. All right, we don't have to do that. That's actually a really good interest rate, but let's not get into that. So 1% per month or 12% per annum. All right, determine the values of A, B, and C. So we're looking at these final values here. Let's calculate A first of all. So get back to the calculator. So remember, our monthly interest rate is just 1. So we can do 1 over 100 to change it from a decimal change it from a percentage into a decimal, and then we multiply that by our previous balance, 531.50. All right, so our interest we've earned for payment number 3 is $53.02. So 02. Make sure you round that correctly. Your principal increase, so we're going to add the $100 payment to that. All right, so that's the value of B. So here we've got A, and I accidentally pressed times. It should be a plus. And there's a value of B, $153.02. So your balance, you take the previous value, so 5301.50, and we're going to add on that principal increase. So I'm just going to highlight it and drag it down. So your investment is now worth $5,454.52. All right, so you can write down those values. There's A, that's B, and that's C. All right, last question. Consider the following amortization table for an investment of $11,000 with an interest rate. Oh my gosh. That's all right. We can read these things off here. I obviously didn't copy this correctly. Interest rate of 4.8% per annum, compounding quarterly, regular quarterly payments of 1,200. So I can see that here. Are added each quarter as shown below for the first 4 quarters. Find the value of A. So we've got, let's just highlight a few important things. So it's $11,000, 4.8% per annum, and it's compounding quarterly. Those quarterly payments are 1,200. So I think that's all we need to know. All right, so for the so to calculate this interest, we actually need to calculate the quarterly interest rate. So we're going to do 4.8, and there's 4 quarters per year. So it's going to be 1.2. If you didn't have that, obviously you can use these values to get your 1.2%. All right, so 1.2% is your quarterly rate. So on our calculator, we're just going to take 1.2 over 100 just to change it from a percentage to a decimal, and we're going to multiply that by our previous value. All right, so that's our amount of interest, so $180.53. Then your principal increase, we just add on our repayment. Pretty easy. Okay, so amortization tables, it just probably looks more complicated than it is, but we'll probably come across some other questions and get a little bit more practice in it. But what makes these difficult is if you have to calculate the interest rate. So some of these gave us the annual interest rate, so we had to calculate the, like this one, the quarterly interest rate. This previous question, it didn't give us an interest rate, but we could calculate it because we've got the interest and the balance, and we can calculate it from there. All right, guys, see ya.